Hello and welcome. Hi guys, welcome back to Wrestling Legion. We got a special show here tonight. We're going to be looking forward and making our predictions for AEW's Revolution pay-per-view on Sunday night. Joined today as usual by the usual crowd, two fantastic wrestling minds. Andy, how are you, mate?
All good, mate. All good. Good to have a midweek catch-up. Always nice.
Yeah, it's always good to be here. We're here like last minute today, but hopefully you're tuning in and following us along with your predictions. And Nick the Geek's with us again. How's it going, bud?
I'm good, mate. It's a reasonable day. Day.
So, guys, how are we looking forward to this pay-per-view? Give us a scale of maybe 1 to 10 for excitement.
Straight away, mate, one thing I'd say is I am worried that it will consume too much of my weekend. I will not watch it live because I've been burnt too many times with AEW pay-per-views because of the length of them. But I am going to watch it spoiler-free in the morning here in the UK.
That's an interesting point about the length of the shows, though.
Yeah.
Because normally we have like 12, maybe even 13 or 14 matches. This time there's only 8 been announced. So, I'm also the mindset that less is more. So maybe he's learning.
Hey, guys. How we doing?
Hey, David.
Just one thing on that, though, Si. I know you say there's only 8 matches, but let's not forget one of them matches is a 60-man Iron Man match.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I still think we're going to go a fair amount on this one.
It could even go to 65. It could be the kind of match that needs like 5 more minutes. Nick, scale of 1 to 10. How are you looking forward to this show?
I'm going to go with a 6.5 to a 7.
Ooh, okay.
The build to this show has been hot garbage. Like it's just all feels like it's been slammed together at the last minute. I'm looking forward to the House of Black versus the Elite, due to the fact that House of Black hopefully are winning those trios titles. I'm really looking the Iron Man match. I'm looking forward to, because I want to see Bryan Danielson beat the snot out of MJF for 60 minutes and then MJF still somehow win. The match card itself is actually quite good, except for the tag team 4-way. That makes very little sense. But yeah, I can't say I'm overexcited like yourselves. I'm not going to be watching it live. I'm going to be watching it on Tuesday with you, Si. But yeah, it should be a good show.
Just always remember, Nick, it's okay if it's in a 4-way.
I feel always. Is that wrestling you're talking about, or is that?
Well,
for me, I always say that less is more. And I think the booking's been a little bit haphazard. I think Tony's been juggling quite a lot of balls. Obviously, we've got Ring of Honor starting tonight, which I'm really excited about. But when it comes to the show on Sunday, like I say, there's 8 matches announced. Rampage tomorrow night might end up announcing a couple more matches for the pre-show. It's been pre-taped. There are probably spoilers out there, but we're not going to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen Rampage, which is all of you. So we're just going to make predictions for the 8 matches that we know about so far. So we're going to start with a feud that's been going on for a good 6 months now. Christian against Jungle Boy. Who wants to go first?
Is it only 6 months?
It feels like 9 months.
Sorry, I'm not actually challenging your timeline there. So I'm just saying, it feels like a lot longer. It just seems like it's never ending. And,
was it All Out it started, or was it Double or Nothing? You might have a point.
Double or Nothing, I think.
So 9 months. Yeah, 9 months. But Christian had an injury, didn't he, during that time?
Yeah. I would also like to say, if I was some kind of tech savvy and had my own website, which one day we hopefully will, is that I would love to put a Christian mentioning dead father countdown clock on there that ticks over every time he mentions dead parents. It seems to be, it seems even after it's like, okay, I've been injured for 6 months, is his dad still dead? Because he just seems to just want to go on about that.
Like going right up to the line for the Heat, isn't he? He's been great.
Yeah. I think that's really good. But I think also the one thing that's been very good with Jungle Boy from the start is he hasn't been that my dad was Luke Perry type of stuff, and I don't really like that connection between the two of them unless it's going to be used in a positive way. But at the same time, I'd rather Jungle Boy or Jack Perry as he's called now, or both, keep his own stuff going. But I do like this kind of gobshite Christian heel. I like it.
Heel Christian is phenomenal. So Andy, we'll start with you then for your predictions. Who do you think is going to pull out the victory in this one?
I would like to think that it would be Jungle Boy, because I feel like this needs to be put to bed now. But I am a bit dubious because of the fact that AEW don't know when to put storylines to bed. So we may get another with Christian coming back. They might think it's fresh enough to redo it again. And also, I think they like to use Dynamite to put pay-per-views to feuds to bed rather than the actual pay-per-views. So I'm going to go with Christian.
Christian, okay. Nick, what are your thoughts on this one?
I'm looking forward to this match. I think Christian Cage is one of the most underrated workers of the last 30 years.
Agreed.
Like, he's far better than his brother, in my opinion, and always has been. Very good promo on Dynamite from Christian, as usual. Loads of heat. He's probably the second best heel in wrestling right now behind MJF. Just for sheerly being able to get people to despise him, and that's difficult to do. But I've never really been that invested in Jack. There's just nothing about his character that connects with me. It's not a personal thing, I don't think. It's just nothing really connects with me with Jack Perry. So I'm hoping Christian beats the snot out of him, to be perfectly honest.
Okay.
But unfortunately, I believe Jack is going to win, because I think this is going to be the end of the feud.
You're picking Jack as well?
Well,
okay.
No, I'm not picking Jack Perry. I'm picking Christian Cage to win by disqualification.
Right. So you see maybe Jungle Boy snapping or getting
and doing a concerto and getting himself DQ'd.
Where's Lucha Dog, you know?
Hopefully that waste of space has completely disappeared from professional wrestling and we'll never see him again. I was happy when John Morrison cut his head off in Lucha Underground.
He did, but he grew back. But if you believe everything you read on the internet, there's been like a copyright problem with the design of his mask, and that's why he's off TV.
Yes.
If anyone knows anything more than that, drop it in the comments.
I know a reasonable amount.
That's a good question, guys. Are we expecting Luchasaurus back on Sunday night?
Without a mask, possibly. Or at least a different mask, because I know that company that made his mask were furious over the merchandising rights issue.
Right. So if he comes back, either with or sans the mask, whose side is he going to be on? What do you reckon?
Christian's.
Yeah, I think we need to keep the two of them away from each other now. Yeah. Not Jack and Thingy. I think it definitely needs to stay away from each other.
I'm like that. It's like, it's been good. It's been on again, off again, on again. But there's legit reasons for that. But I think it's time to end the feud, isn't it? And it's time to move on.
Yeah.
I'm like you guys, particularly like you, Nick. My head is saying Christian. He's, anybody know? I think he's maybe 47, 48, somewhere around there, off the top of my head.
Roughly in that number.
Might not have years and years left. Seeing him get a big win on a pay-per-view and then, go on a final run would be great. That's what my head wants. What my heart wants. But I'm like you guys. I'm sorry to be boring and agree with everyone, but it's got to be Jungle Boy. The whole story has been about Jungle Boy becoming Jungle Man. And I think that's what we're going to see. So moving on.
You're not agreeing with everyone because you're not agreeing with me. I said Christian.
And I'm picking Christian by disqualification.
Well, David does agree with you. Jack Perry should go over in a bloody hard-hitting affair. Then Jack and Christian move on to other feuds. Smart dropping the Jungle Boy aspect, though, it served its purpose. I agree with you, mate, to think, I do, David, to feel like Jack should have moved on from there. But also, I think it is time to move on from that feud. But as I say, I haven't got the kind of confidence that they'll do that.
Particularly with Double or Nothing only being 6 or 8 weeks after Evolution.
Yeah.
Anyway, match 2. Nick, you're gonna like this one, mate. I think it might be the one you might be looking forward to the most. Set up on Dynamite last night, we finally had a physical confrontation between the House of Black and the Elite. What are your thoughts on this, Nick?
This is going to be an absolute freaking banger. like, I know the Bucks get a lot of criticism, but Kenny and the Bucks as a trios team are one of the tightest units in professional wrestling. They understand each other. They know where each other are in the ring. They get each other's timing. And the House of Black are the most underutilized trio in AEW. Aleister Black is phenomenal at what he does. No AJ pun intended. Buddy Murphy is greatly underrated, and Big Boy is, because I've completely forgotten his name now, at this moment in time.
Brody King.
Thank you. Brody King is probably one of the best big men going.
He's one of my favorite big guys.
Like,
yeah, totally.
That Gonzo bomb is just, no, it's nasty, but it's brilliant. So I'm expecting a 5-star banger from this, and I am really hoping the House of Black take those belts.
Ooh. Okay, Andy, pass it over to you.
One thing I want to say straight away, I think that Nick's right about the whole thing of when Kenny and the Bucks are together, they're great. But also one thing I want to say is, and it's probably a little thing to Kenny, is I believe Kenny reins the Bucks in when they're wrestling together. I do. I believe Kenny reins them in a little bit, because if you watch a Bucks match on their own and you watch a Bucks match with Kenny, it's not a diluted Young Bucks, but it's a more restrained Young Bucks.
Yeah, it's a refined Bucks.
Yeah. And I think that's Kenny, probably because Kenny's got the same kind of poke as them, should we say, in AEW. It probably plays into the fact of that he can turn around and rein them in on that, because they haven't really got any say over what he says. As for the match, I think the Young Bucks done what they were meant to do at the start, and they won the belts back. I thought that the whole best of 7, was it, or best of 5? What was it again?
7.
Best of 7 it was, wasn't
it?
Yeah, was really well done. Considering it was, I'll admit, when I first seen that match coming up, I was kind of like, oh, we're going to see this too many times and it's going to get boring. But credit to all involved. They kept it really fresh and really big. But I would like to see the House of Black move on with this one, just because I want to see Aleister start getting a bit of momentum. I feel like it needs it.
So you're both picking House of Black.
Yeah.
Again, right? I kind of want House of Black to win. I'm not the biggest fan of the Bucks. I love Kenny Omega. However, I think we saw a classic problem, a classic mistake on Dynamite, because House of Black touched the belts on the Go Home show. Now, anyone that's been a long-time fan of wrestling knows if you touch that gold, the show before the pay-per-view, you ain't winning it. I still think there's a possibility. I'm kind of hoping that FTR and CM Punk return after the match, in which case the Elite need to retain. So I'm going to pick the Elite. I'm going to pick it up on it. David says the trios match with the talent involved has got the potential to be off the charts. He'd like to see House of Black go over too. Yeah, I mean, I think we all would. But I'm going to pick the Elite. But it's going to be a great match. And I'm with you, Andy, as well.
Quick quiz for you. Who is Unfiltered Chaos? I remember that name very well.
I think this is Zayn, isn't it?
It is Matty Laws.
I was Matty.
How are we, Matty?
Hello, Matthew.
Although it could be Zayn. Zayn does occasionally imposter people.
Yeah, he does. That's definitely Matty, that.
Hello, Matthew.
Hey, Matty.
Yeah, sorry to put in as well. Sorry, just a good point from David here. The Elite may have other things on the horizons that wouldn't need the belts. So, they might push Kenny back into the main event scene, or they might look to throw the Young Bucks in the tag team thing after that. So it's, it's a good point.
I agree with that. I think that the tag team division needs some bigger names again at the minute, but we'll get to that later. Match 3, guys. We've got a triple threat for the AEW Women's title. Jamie Hayter defending against Saraya and Ruby Soho in a triple threat. Andy, do you want to go first this time?
Yeah. Looking forward to this match. I think it's a good move as well. Saraya obviously still hasn't been able to get the heights as what she did earlier in the career. Understandably with the injuries that she's had. And one thing I will say is that, we do give AEW, well, I do, wherever I talk about wrestling, I do give AEW a bit of stick for not being safe. But one thing I will say is...
I've never heard you say anything like that, mate.
Well, but one thing I'll say about Tony, he's really, really nurtured Saraya since she's been there. And I know people are saying, oh, she hasn't done all this, she hasn't done all that, but he's dripped it in nicely where, you know, we've gone from tag teams to now a triple threat, which again keeps the full pressure off her. And we're dripping it in nicely to see how far she can go without actually putting it in too much danger. And, you know, I think they deserve a bit of credit for that.
Yep,
no, I agree.
Now, as for the match, I don't think Ruby's going to win. Saraya, I don't think at this present moment can carry that belt. I think that she still needs a bit more time to make her way without the pressure of holding the title. So I don't see anybody else but Jamie retaining here.
Jamie keeping. All right. Nick?
Well, I am firmly addicted to Haterade, mate. That girl is fantastic, and I do not want to see her lose that belt. I want to see her knock Ruby Soho's head off and then pin her, because the way I look at it, Ruby's in this match to take the pin. Saraya, they can't really have Saraya get beat at this point for the angle that they're going with the whole outsiders routine. So, yeah, I think Hater takes off Ruby's head with a Rainmaker, and we're off to the races.
I kind of hope so. I'm with you. You know, I love the Haterade. She's the total package. And I don't even think we've seen her full potential yet. You know, she can talk, she can wrestle, she's got the look. Literally the triple threat. What I would like to see after this match, do either of you guys think that we could see a turn? Because I don't know if you remember a couple of weeks ago on the weekly show, I was talking about, you basically got Saraya, who's in there with Tony Storm, being referred to as the outsiders. Now,
Which makes no sense.
Well, leave that debate for another day. But you're right, though, it doesn't. But they need a leader. And I'm starting to think, whose side is Britt Baker on? Could Britt Baker end up being the Hogan to this new stable?
I mean, the potential's there, I suppose. I really hope not, because I hope the direction Britt is going is the TBS Championship, so she becomes the first Grand Slam winner. Because she'll have won the Owen Hart tournament, she'll have won the Women's Championship, and she'll have won the TBS title. So she'll become their first, and she is Tony's girl, so it makes sense.
Down though, do you not prefer heel Britt?
Yes, but I don't think she meshes well with Saraya. It's just me. I don't think they have good chemistry.
I'm kind of like that with Saraya and Tony. It's like, ever since day one, there seems to be some tension between them on screen.
Well, one of the main problems you've got there, minor rant, is Tony Storm is the girl who was in WWE for a cup of coffee, was humiliated, had a character assassinated, got so sick of it she walked out on said company, and is now being asked to portray herself as a WWE girl. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
Zero sense.
Yeah.
So Saraya, fine. She's WWE through and through. She was there from the indies straight to WWE. But Tony, no.
The story is just contrived, isn't it? It's like from day one when they started the angle on Dynamite, they had Taz on commentary saying, "Oh, it doesn't matter where you come from," you know, and he just crapped on the entire angle.
Yeah.
But let's forget the story. I think the match is going to be good. I'm with you guys. I think Jamie's keeping the belt. But I'm hoping there's some kind of shenanigans afterwards. Maybe we get a Brit turn. Not too sure. Anything else to add on that one?
No, I think, me personally, I think they need to keep on building this Saraya Britt stuff, because I think that's probably the best thing. Unless you're going to interject Cargill on the other side and have her be and turn Britt heel and have her put up with that, then, and then we can have the Saraya one later down the road once Saraya gets a bit more fitter. Then that could be the way to go.
I'm probably like a stuck record, but I would have had Jade win the title over Jamie in her 100th match on this show, right? And then drop it back to Jamie in the UK in the summer. But, it's not gone that way, so I'll cry in my sleep. Let me just check what's next on the card. The fourth match. This is a good one. It's going to be entertaining. Chris Jericho against Ricky Starks. Nick, I'm going to let you go first on this one.
My boy is finally in the worst position he could possibly be in. in a pay-per-view match against Chris Jericho. Like, I really want Ricky to win this. Ricky Starks is the Rock, or at least the unadopted son of the Rock, or at least the bastard child of the Rock. There is some genetic connection to the Rock somewhere with Ricky Starks. He is charisma walking. The man is charisma personified. He is just bags of it. He's great in the ring. He's ridiculously strong for someone of his build. He's very agile, very quick. He's got impeccable timing. And he's really good on the microphone. The only problem is he's wrestling Chris Jericho on pay-per-view. And Chris Jericho does not like to lose on pay-per-view. And Ricky already beat him. So I'm really concerned that Chris Jericho is going to win this match and this feud is going to continue. I want Ricky to win, but I'm picking Chris.
Right. Okay. See, I get where you're coming from. I've seen that online a lot recently. It's been like a narrative where people are giving Chris Jericho this reputation for not giving people a win back and ultimately not elevating anybody. He kind of gives people a win and then he takes it back rather than leaving the younger guy.
In the annals of AEW's history, after a feud with Chris Jericho, was in a better position than before they started?
Action Andretti.
Anyone else?
Orange Cassidy.
Okay, that's two. I'll give you that.
I'm struggling to think of more though. But whether that is actual like truth, that is what Jericho's like, or whether that narrative has been leaked out there and put out there so that we'll all be pleasantly surprised if Ricky wins, it's like I can't make my mind up. Andy, who are you picking?
One Starks. Think it'll be Chris Jericho. I think the one thing that does my head in is this JSA is banned from ringside because that normally means Jericho's got to do it on his own, and he does do it. And in Jericho's head, it's I've got it on doing my own, but guess what? I do. I can just imagine him pitching it in the back.
Yeah, it's one of them. I'm with both of you. I think everything inside me is screaming this is a Jericho pay-per-view win, but like you say, Ricky Starks, right? You've got like the in-ring ability of Kid Romeo from back in the day, the look of Kid Romeo,
comparison
with the talking mic kind of skill of Eli Drake, LA Knight, call him whatever you want. It's all rolled into one. He's got that like untapped potential. He's been gradually working his way up the show, and quite honestly, I'm not going to forgive Tony Khan if Chris Jericho wins this. This is the time to pull the trigger and give Ricky Starks the win that he deserves. So I'm picking Ricky. David says, Jericho versus Starks, Ricky has to win. Yeah, I mean, I think you're with us on this. He has to go over. Chris serves no purpose. Courtney is a Chris Jericho girl. Well, one of you is going to be disappointed. But I'm thoroughly looking forward to this match. Pretty much more than anything else on the show, I think. I'm looking forward to this one. We have a title match next. Samoa Joe is defending the TNT belt against Wardlow. Who wants to go first?
Come on then. This has been fun. Like, I love watching big beefy boys beat the snot out of each other. And this is what this match is going to be.
As Booker T would say, no salad, no sauce, give me the meat.
Yeah, basically. Just straight up steak on steak. Yeah. I love Joe. I have done for years. He is a thoroughly entertaining human being. And Wardlow has come a long way since his debut. A long way.
Yeah.
He's vastly improved. I'm under the assumption that Wardlow is winning this. Pardon me. I'm under the assumption that Wardlow is winning this match. All the build-up with Joe cutting his hair off and that being the connection to his father and blah. That, to me, is setting up a babyface for a win, not a heel for a victory. And I think the match is going to be heavy hitting. The thing is, I know we're not going to get the Samoa Joe matches that people remember of Samoa Joe. He just can't do it anymore. He's got a lot older and his body's a lot more banged up. But I enjoy the current version of Joe that just hurts people and does it in a maniacal way or a overly misogynistic fashion. Be a good way of putting it. I love modern Joe, and I wish that he was going to beat Wardlow, but Wardlow's going to beat Joe. I just wonder whether he can powerbomb him.
Is Joe going to take a powerbomb off him? Yeah, that's a good point. I don't think Joe's going to take like 6 or 7.
No.
He's not going to take the Symphony.
No.
Andy, flip this one over to you. Which one of these two big bulls are you picking?
I'm going to go with Joe.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why, because I am sick to death of Wardlow and the TNT Championship. When he first got hold of it, it was meant to be a finger beauty, and it has just been one failure after another with him. And that really, really makes me sad. And I think even if he was to win here, I know David's made a comment here of Wardlow gets his shine back with the win. I just think for me is, even if he does win that, David, I don't see the shine coming back because I feel like it's been 2 fingers.
Just on a side note there, I was talking to David on Twitter earlier today about this. I think he's bang on with the theory. I think we saw some foreshadowing on Dynamite with Takeshita and Hobbs being in the ring so much together, focused together, all the spots were together. I think should Wardlow win, I think Hobbs is going to take that belt by All In, and Takeshita will be next. I'm totally with David on that one. It's not often we agree.
Yeah.
But yeah. So who are you picking, Andy?
I am going to go for Samoa Joe.
Who do you think, if you're picking Joe, is going to be the next challenger? Because Hobbs and Joe, it's like heel. We don't see that too much. Where do you think it goes?
Briscoe.
See, I was thinking maybe if Joe kept it, could you send Ricky after him?
Possibly, but Ricky ain't getting Joe for a Rochambeau.
yeah, no chance.
Do you want me to tell you why I want it to be Briscoe?
Go on.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a big, massive 2 fingers up to the TV executives that wouldn't let him on the telly for him walking around with their belt.
Yeah. That would
he's
be
actually
pretty cool.
wearing it around his waist. Yeah. A lot of people that love that. I think Mark's going to be sticking in Ring of Honor more now. I'm kind of hoping that we're going to see more of a solid line between the 2 promotions, and we don't see, back
it would be nice to have the rosters kind of.
Yeah, it's the same when you had Raw and you had SmackDown, and then you had like guest appearances, and it's just.
Well, you might be disappointed by tonight's episode of Ring of Honor. Then I know the match card for the first 2 episodes.
I've seen the match card.
Yeah.
I think they're all predictable, but it looks like a solid enough card. But I'm hoping that as time goes by, when we get past the pay-per-view, we have like 2 distinct rosters rather than constantly doing what WWE did with ECW, having a guest every week to lose to like the Big Show, which is what they did for weeks and weeks. For me, for this one, I think like you, Nick, you hit the nail on the head with the hair. Okay. Wardlow lost maybe one of the coolest things that he had going for him. Instead of looking like a wrestler, he now looks more like a hench accountant. And it's like, it's been done for a reason. It was to give the feud substance, nice bit of storytelling. And I think that Wardlow is taking that belt. But it's going to be a beefy match. It's going to be a banger. We've only got 2 left, gents. Who wants to tear into the tag team title match first? This week on Twitter, right, we've seen a lot about Brock facing Omos over on the other channel. Did Tony Khan see this match announced for Mania? And he's like, hold my beer, guys. I'm going to book a 4-way with 4 tag teams that shouldn't be anywhere near those belts. I mean, what is happening?
Nah. Right, the Acclaimed, I'm fine with. They shouldn't have lost the belts to the Ass Boys in the first place.
No.
But you see, what I figured they were doing was putting the belts on the Ass Boys for a small amount of time to then quickly lose them to FTR in an effort for Tony Khan to keep FTR in the company with their contracts coming up at any time soon.
Yeah.
Apparently, this logical chain of events did not occur to Tony Khan, because now we have the Acclaimed challenging the Ass Boys, who are also being challenged by Danhausen and Orange Cassidy.
Or Orangehausen, as I like to call
Orangehausen, thank you. And Triple J, Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal. Now, they've done the whole 2 heels, 2 face teams. Fine. That much at least makes sense.
Yeah. Take care, Court.
Thanks for tuning in.
The only conceivable reason I can see Orangehausen being in this match is because it was supposed to be Trent and Chuck, but Trent and Chuck couldn't get medically cleared, so they just went with the other 2 members, which is fine. But unfortunately, the way this is going, there's no way that the Ass Boys are losing them belts. Like, this is not a match where you think, oh, there's going to be a big title change.
No. Lots of the pay-per-view title matches are like that as well. It's got to be said. But I think I'm going to give a shout out to our friend on the mat. Usually tunes in to watch us. He was telling me today that we had the Orange Cassidy injury angle on Dynamite. If you remember, he had a grueling first match against Big Bill. Yeah. He got himself kind of seen by a doctor backstage, and then he came back out for the Battle Royal, and he's selling that injury. So I think that's kind of setting him up to take the pinfall. So I'm kind of like you. I think it adds to the match. They've replaced the best friends, and maybe you get that feud coming out of the pay-per-view between the best friends who are a little bit jealous that their spot's been taken. Yeah.
I also want to state that this match is sponsored by FTR to WWE, confirmed.
Yeah.
Ass Boys and the Acclaimed, I think David's bang on are the favourites. Nick, you are saying the Ass Boys are going to keep the belts?
Yeah, I just don't see, like, the Acclaim should never have lost them, but why would you put the belts on somebody for 4 weeks?
Particularly, why would you put the belts on the Ass Boys without a Billy turn or without bringing in Uncle Bart? I mean, there's so many things they could have done that they didn't. But Andy, are you with us on this one, or are you going different?
Well, I'm going for the Acclaims. One thing we've seen with Tony Khan over the time is you're not afraid to right a wrong, and I think you were right in saying that the FTR were meant to win the belts from the Guns. Now that's not going to happen by the looks of it. The Acclaims could win this one. You know, a la CM Punk getting beat by MJF in Chicago and then beating them the next week, and then Jericho with other people and stuff. They're not afraid of flip flopping, and I think that'll happen here because I don't think the Guns were ever long term champions. So
I don't like the Ass Boys as the champions. I said when the Trios division launched, I said my one fear is that it's going to make the tag team scene a hell of a lot weaker, and sadly, I think that's kind of what's happened. You've got a lot of the main teams, the Bucks, the Lucha Bros, etc., that are kind of caught up in the Trios division, and it's kind of stripped the tag team. The once best tag team in the world is now struggling. I'm not sure how you fix it. I think getting the belts back on the Acclaimed is a good first move, because they were good with the belts. I'm like you, Nick. I don't know why they went to the Ass Boys in the first place. I want to see the Acclaimed win the belts, but then on the flip side, you guys remember when the New Age Outlaws first formed, right? You remember they beat up the Headbangers. They took the Ghetto Blaster. They beat up the Legion of Doom. They took the shoulder pads. They were stealing off different tag teams every week. At first, it was like, what is this team? Get off my TV. After a few weeks, you got the gimmick and it started to get good.
Yeah.
And I'm still holding out hope that the Ass Boys will build what they've got, take the ball, run with it, and build it into something.
I think the thing is they need to get away from Daddy Ass before that'll happen.
Yeah. They need to get as far away from Billy as possible. The thing is, the Guns get it. Like, you can't argue. They get it. When you see them move, they talk, they understand what they're supposed to do, what their role is.
Yeah.
But their role is not as a champion.
They've been dropped in the deep end, totally.
Yeah.
Ass Boys could transition to where FTR were. They do have a bit of history. I mean, maybe the plan was for FTR. Maybe it was for the Hardy Boys. Maybe plans changed. But, you know, I want the Acclaim to get it back. But I'm going to say I think the Ass Boys are retaining. I'm just hoping it's better than I'm expecting it to be. I think sometimes with wrestling, your expectations are lower and you end up enjoying it more. So
I think one thing us wrestling fans are, though, we're all fickle. So, you know, just on the last match they were moaning about Chris Jericho not putting people over and not enhancing anybody. You know, the Guns win the titles, which obviously enhances them and gives them a bit of a thing, and we moan about it. So it's kind of like, well, you know, which way is it?
Either way, we're going to moan, aren't we? It's what we do.
Yeah.
All right, gents, there's only one match left. Andy, I'm going to start with you on this one because I know Nick has a lot to say about it. We saw the feud culminate on Dynamite with a scathing promo from Daniel Bryan, including an uncensored F-bomb, which I'm glad I wasn't watching it with my daughter at the time. Who are you picking, Andy? Do you think that Bryan Danielson is going to finally win the AEW title? Or do you think MJF is a shoo-in? Tell us why.
MJF is a shoo-in because MJF needs to be the title holder at the moment. I am a little bit peeved with him at the moment because I feel like he's done so much talking, not enough wrestling.
Yes.
Which is why I think this match is a really good move because it will really show off what Max can do. And I think Daniel can really push him on that. But I don't see anything but an MJF win along this.
It's kind of like we saw last year with Punk, isn't it? They had a great half-hour match, Punk and MJF, and you were like, "Whoa!" I've seen MJF for years. I watched him in MLW before AEW, and I didn't know he could go as well as he could until I saw that match with CM Punk. So I do think it's going to be a great match.
It was there was a match I watched MJF. I can't remember who it was against. It's going to do me head in now because I can't remember. What was it? It was a really good match as well. And Max was really good at it. It was last year. TNT title match.
Darby
Allin. That was who was against Darby Allin. It was
maybe with a hip toss.
Yeah, them two had a cracking match together, and I was really thingy about that. But I don't think Bryan wants the title. I think he's happy just going and having great, you know, like this 60-minute Iron Man's got Bryan written all over it. I want to have an hour-long match. You know, he's enjoying himself, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes you get a little bit fed up with Iron Man matches if you get quite a few together. But it's been a while since we've had one for an hour, hasn't it? I can't think recently. So I think we're going to get a clinic. Any prediction on the score, Andy?
I think it's going to be a draw.
Oh, so you're going for like Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, 96 kind of finish?
Yeah, but the rematch will be at All Out. Double or nothing, sorry.
So you wouldn't give it 5 more minutes? You're just going to end a broad walk with a draw?
Broadway.
What did I say?
Yeah.
Broad walk.
Well, there we go. I don't know my Broadway from my broad walk. Nick, what are your thoughts on this one, dude?
This is going to be fantastic. Maxwell Jacob Friedman is very underrated in the ring. Every time that people start to doubt that he can actually wrestle, he steps up and he proves he can go.
Yeah.
However, this time he doesn't just have to step up, he has to take a springboard and jump 53 stories because he's in there with Bryan Danielson. Bryan Danielson is the most well-rounded, accurate, technical wrestler on the face of the planet. There is nobody in the ring who can do what Bryan Danielson is capable of doing when Bryan Danielson is on form. He's also one of the stiffest little shits in the industry, if you ask anybody who's ever wrestled. He is going to beat the living snot out of MJF, and he's going to do it for 60 minutes. And then MJF, via shenanigans, is going to win. Does anyone remember my favorite Iron Man match of all time, Brock Lesnar versus Kurt Angle from SmackDown in 2003?
The submission one?
No.
Not the submission Iron match, no?
No, just the Iron Man. It was on SmackDown. Brock started the match by beating the snot out of Kurt with a steel chair and getting himself disqualified 3 times.
Deliberately disqualified to give the points away to weaken the opponent to get the... Yeah.
Well, that, I believe, is what we're going to see from MJF tonight. Or on Sunday night, sorry.
I like it. I agree with you, Andy. MJF doesn't wrestle nearly enough. Somebody was criticizing Roman yesterday online. He doesn't wrestle enough. Part-time wrestler.
I'll just stop you there, though. Roman has probably earned that right.
Yep.
Max hasn't.
The comparison is unfair. Do you know the actual statistics? Roman Reigns last year, how many matches did he wrestle? 44. 44 matches. MJF last year, how many matches did he wrestle?
6.
9.
9.
So MJF needs to wrestle more. I've been a big kind of proponent for that for a long, long time. I'm not saying every week. I'm not saying dilute what he's good at, which is his promos are out of this world. But at least once a month, let's see him in the ring because he's good. He's good at what he does. It's hard to call. I'm going to pick Danielson.
Can I just say as well that we need to see him actually in a ring more instead of standing in a stupid skybox all the time shouting stuff.
We do.
Yeah.
He needs to wrestle more. I'm picking Danielson. I think we could be getting to the last year of his career. As much as he will be saying backstage he doesn't want the belt, because that's what he's like. I think Tony Khan's, one of his main criticisms, from me at least, is that quite often his pay-per-views are too predictable. Throughout 2020, every show through the year, Dark, Dynamite, Dark Elevation, Rampage, I called every match through the year, made predictions for every show, and I got 7 matches wrong in the whole year out of God knows how many hundred. And I think sometimes he'll throw a spanner in the works just to shake things up, just to be unpredictable. And I think this is the match he could do it in. And I think that Danielson winning the belt and then dropping it back, a double or nothing, only 2 months later, makes perfect sense.
Do you think we might see Warren Mox or Hangman jump into that main event scene after?
I missed a match. I missed a match.
Oh, sorry, I've just started to say. I've just started to segue it there without blending in, without you having to say it. I tried to segue it there for you, mate. You've just blew yourself up.
I feel like, professionally, I've just juiced a minute into the podcast. Speaking of which, Mox and Hangman. Go on, Andy. You take it first, mate.
I tried to give you the in there, mate, without having to.
That was good. That was a really good segue.
I tangled it right out there for him, didn't I? But anyway, in this one, Jon Moxley will die. Hangman will sulk. And I think in the end, Hangman will win because it's his party and he'll cry if he wants to.
Yeah. Nick, I'm going to ask you this, mate. When he was given the opportunity to challenge Mox to any match he wanted, right? Bearing in mind that this match is in, I believe, is it in California? Why a Texas death match when it's not in Texas? Why not a first blood match, which he could have won in 30 seconds?
Yes. If you're going to challenge Jon Moxley to any single match, you challenge him to a first blood match because you will win that match. Because Jon can't help himself. He has to bleed. It's like oxygen to Jon Moxley. Did you see the promo he cut on Dynamite?
No.
It was.
I refuse to watch it.
Literally pissing blood all over a staircase.
I deliberately bought an LCD television. I didn't want plasma, so I skipped that promo. But yeah, I know you guys are looking forward to this. I'm not the biggest Mox fan there is. I shall watch the match. But come on, surely Mox is going on his holiday. He's finally getting that holiday that he should have had before.
I think Hangman will send him on it when he electrocutes him or something.
I'm really quite looking forward to this match.
Sorry, can I just put in very quickly before I forget, because I've got a man like a sieve today. The reason it is a Texas death match, come on, why is it? Can anyone tell me why?
Because Hangman thinks he's a cowboy?
Because there's a cowboy in it. That's the whole I can imagine Jon Moxley pitching it. Yeah, but I can imagine Moxley pitching this to Tony Khan. Can we have a death match? No, John. Okay, can we have a Texas death match? We do have a cowboy, and he's gone. Great idea, John.
It's
No, but I, unlike you two, am quite a big John Moxley fan. I have a tremendous amount of respect for that man. I admit that he blades too much, but he works his arse off in that ring and lets people beat the hell out of him. Unfortunately, the Millennial Cowboy is going over. He has to go over, and I do agree that I think John's finally going to get that break that he was promised months ago.
Take his time off and then maybe come back for Double or Nothing.
Yeah, have his couple of weeks off, do a bit of recuperation, and then come back to it. But this match is going to be fun. Moxley, if I'm right, is a 2-1 in Texas death matches in AEW.
I'm not sure on that one. Okay.
I think you are right, yeah.
Who's the one? Who beat him?
Kenny.
Kenny beat him in the first one.
Okay. Right.
He's one of the first ones. So it's going to be interesting to see if his record gets increased and continues, or whether Hangman actually gets to victory. But as you say, the most stupid, barbaric question is, Adam Page, you absolute moron, why didn't you pick a first blood match?
He's not the sharpest knife in the drawer. It was an obvious kind of thing to do, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But
as you know, 30
Texas
seconds, match is over.
I'll be glad to see the end of this one, to be honest. I'm not the hugest Mox fan. I do tip my hat to like you say, Nick. He works maybe harder than anybody else in the business at the minute. He's always there for them, and you need people like that. But yeah, it's going to be a good pay-per-view. I don't think the build has been fantastic, like we said at the start. But sometimes it's the shows that you're maybe not quite as excited for that you'll enjoy more at the time. That's how I always see it.
I agree.
Anything else either of you gentlemen would like to add?
Nope.
I think we've covered all the bases.
Join us Sunday.
Sunday.
So Sunday night we'll be back with our regular weekly show. We'll be talking about the new Ring of Honor show. I think is going to be a feature on there, and any other happenings. We'll be here Sunday at 8:00 as usual. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We really appreciate you watching. Nick is going to tell you about the algorithm in 5 seconds. Go.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoy what we do here at the Legion, please join the Legion. Subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, and put a like on the video because it really helps us out and it makes the only way the YouTube algorithm knows we exist. Thank you so much. I love you all. I'm Nick the Geek. That is Andy.
I am
Simon.
This is Wrestling Legion. We make it make sense.